and no communication, and finally they opt to leave. And most of the wounded are left here, and there aren't a lot of natives here, but they're sent out after dark to what they call dispatch the wounded. You know, the French can't take care of them. You kill them. The French have enough problems of their own dealing with their own wounded, and just don't have the facilities to take care of everyone else. So chances are there's people buried right where we are. We don't know for sure exactly where, but we just treat every place, because once you're within firing range of the lines, there's a chance that there are casualties right in this area. So getting across the horrors of a situation, you know, movies usually, you know, they make it look bad, but there's always a glorious story to it somehow, and it's just trying to get that across. And one of our challenges as a historic site museum is we preserve the history, but we also want to preserve the memory. And fighting's not glorious. And the American soldiers that are here in 1776, some of them never see a day of battle the whole time they're here. But their service is just as important and equally traumatic. For every battlefield death in the American Army, there's 10 deaths due to disease. And in 1776, there's a big smallpox epidemic. And smallpox is a problem in Canada. It follows the American Army here. And it's really the end of 1776 before smallpox is eradicated in this part. The smallpox epidemic in North America pretty much mirrors the Revolution. It breaks out in 75 and lasts until about 1783. And it just goes, and the people most susceptible are young people. Who are most of your troops? 16 to 24-year-olds. They're the people that are most susceptible, because most of the officers survived an earlier smallpox epidemic in the 1750s. That's when Washington got smallpox and survived. So it's not with the diseases, it's particularly the young. And one of the other challenges, and John mentioned Crucible of War by Fred Anderson. Fred Anderson's first book he wrote in the early 80s was called The People's Army. And it's about the experiences of the Massachusetts provincials during the French and Indian War. And he does talk about the Massachusetts troops here in 1758. But one of his thesi is that you're taking basically a rural population, farm boys, and putting them in an urban situation, a military camp. And they have no concept of the need for sanitation. They don't understand why you have to use, they didn't call them latrines, called them necessaries or vaults, but why it was important to use them rather than relieve yourself anywhere like you did at home, because of the concentration of people and the whole concept of making sure you're preparing your food in a totally different place from where you're performing bodily functions, and just all of that stuff is totally new to a rural people who are suddenly thrust themselves in a situation. Here in 1776, when there's up to 14,000 American troops here, that's more people than there are in the city of Boston. Boston's population is 12,000 during the Revolution. Philadelphia's population is 20,000. Just to give you a sense, so an army of 12 to 14,000, it's a city without the facilities for a city. So it's getting to think about those aspects of service. It's not all just tactics and formations and strategy. I keep waiting for somebody to write a book like Fred Anderson's about the American Revolution, because I think there's the same things apply in the American Revolution that apply in the French and Indian War. Okay, anybody have any questions? We're just going to walk